I'm delighted to have the opportunity to converse with Nat Flood. Nat, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm great. I'm so happy to be here and chat to you.
Thank you. This has been several months in the making because you are a mom or a
Hmm.
recently again new mom, and
Hmm.
I know that when I reached out to you, you had said, "Oh, I can do this, but I just need a little bit of time." And
Yeah.
so thank you so much for carving out time. I do know how busy we are as parents, how hard it is to get a little bit of time for ourselves. Can you tell me a little bit what it's like being a new mom again?
Yeah. No, my pleasure. I'm so happy to chat. Yeah, it's amazing over and over and over again. I feel like we learn so much about ourselves over again. We have maybe as a second time mom for me, like an expectation of how things are going to go. And then of course, none of it went the way that I expected. So it's nice to be put in that position with new variables. I love
Mm.
having stuff just thrown at me and dealing with new things. So it's been great.
What is an example of something that you try to premeditate that did not go according
Mm.
to your plan?
Yeah. So, I mean, luckily for me, the second birth was so much more fluid and on the level that I wanted. I was successful this time in my home water birth, which I'm just so grateful for.
Right.
Took a lot of preparation. It's just not a done thing here in Bermuda. Not to say that you can't do it, but it's not regulated and it's not legislated. So it's a personal risk that we take on to do it here rather than birthing at the hospital, which is like the major option. But I was a long extended breastfeeder with my first son. So we made it to about 15, 16 months breastfeeding. And so I was really looking forward to the breastfeeding journey with my second. And it was discovered, I kind of knew that there was a problem. He was kind of living off my letdown. I knew that it wasn't right. And then we discovered a massive tongue tie issue for him. Decided to go ahead with revision, and even with revision, he was so guarded. He would not let the dentist in there to do it, so it wasn't successful. And I ended up pumping exclusively and bottle feeding him. And I mean, he's only 9 months, so luckily I have a great supply. So I was able to pump and store for 6 months, and he's still living off my supply. So hopefully I'll get him to a year with my breast milk supply. So for me, that was just such a new
Yeah.
way of thinking or like seeing motherhood, especially as a business owner. It was so time consuming, so
Oh my
body
gosh.
consuming,
Oh my
you
gosh.
know?
I can't even imagine. I mean, obviously, I can't imagine being a male, but at the same time, being a dad
Yeah, and knowing how
and
much
seeing,
goes into it.
yeah. Oh my gosh, right? Like I remember
Mhm.
just even if we were attempting to get a night off in the process of needing to try to have enough supplies ready to go was a
Exactly.
lot of extra work. So
A lot of extra work.
you've been doing that
Cleaning
for
bottles, sterilizing bottles, pump
yeah.
parts, like, oh my goodness, I never did that with my first.
Can you explain
So,
to me what when you say tongue-tied, I can
mm.
guess what that means, but can you further
Yeah,
clarify what that
so
means?
it's called a sublingual mucosal tongue tie. I'm probably butchering that for anyone who knows a lot about tongue ties. So
Yeah.
it's quite deep and in the back and hard to see. And so what it means is that they can't get their tongue up to the roof of their mouth to perform that perfect latch.
Mm.
So anytime he would latch on to my breast, it was a couple sucks and a release and a release, and he could not get a good flow going. So when you have your letdown, he had basically trained my body to be 2 to 3 ounces of a letdown, and then he would just stop feeding. And he was actually doing something similarly to a bottle, but obviously with a bottle, it's a whole lot easier to get the suction and the latch going. So luckily, the tongue tie reversal, what she could do, what the dentist could do, it made it a lot easier with a lot less clicking on the bottle. But he was still never able to like develop that positive relationship with breastfeeding. It was traumatizing for him to breastfeed.
Yeah.
So for us, it was like, you know what? We
Yes.
could have
Yes.
potentially gone off island and found another dentist that would have done another revision, but like, you know what? We just whatever's best for him, and right now this seems to be his happy place, feeding from a bottle, so
Yes,
that's what we did.
I hear you, and you just used the word off island, so on that note,
Mm.
I want to mention that the reason that, or the way I was able to find you, is I have someone who comes to our studio that she travels to Bermuda, and she just every time she comes back, she's just raves about how
Mhm.
beautiful
Yeah.
Bermuda is, that the energy there is just so incredible, and she's piqued my interest. So, in the process of finding you in a yoga studio in Bermuda, um, I guess I'm just really excited to actually talk to someone who lives in Bermuda.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what Bermuda is
Yeah.
like?
Bermuda's awesome. So we're a subtropical island that's about 700 miles off the coast of North Carolina. So we're like right in line with North Carolina.
Mm.
We are kind of the halfway in between the US and really like the continent of Africa. Like it's on the other side, obviously. And then we have Britain above us. So we are an overseas territory of the United Kingdom. So kind of like how Jamaica was before they went independent, essentially. And it's beautiful. It's a 21 square mile island. It's a mile wide at its widest point. If you look at a map of Bermuda, it looks like kind of I've heard it described as like a hook. Or like someone said to me recently, I had a teacher, one of my best friends came and taught here for me back in October. She's like, it looks to me like a witch's finger that's like curling in
Oh,
and telling you to
classic.
come here, like come hither, sort of thing. So it's a really cool shape. It's actually a volcano. We're living on top of an inactive volcano. And so
Wow,
there is, like, it's just kind of the island, and then everything below it is inactive volcano. So we have incredible reef, incredible surf, and then we have this insane drop off point. So all of the fishermen here, they go out to the drop off, and that's where they do their fishing. But when they go out that far, you can't even see the island anymore. That's how far out it is.
wow.
So it's cool. It's a cool spot.
It sounds amazing. I know everything
Yeah.
I've heard about it and the pics I've seen of from the surf culture as well. It just looks like
Mm.
this
And the
really
surf
amazing.
culture is like super hush hush too. A lot of people that move here don't know that you can surf here. And there's like this small contingency of surfer dudes and surfer girls that go out and they're watching the weather radar like crazy to make sure that the conditions are right, and they go out and they paddle and they go for it. So it's cool. It's like it's starting to become a real thing. Like people are coming here to surf. So
Nice.
yeah.
Awesome. Another reason to go.
Hmm.
What drew you, or when did you move to Bermuda? Are you
Mm.
born and raised
So
there,
cool
or
story. No, I am from Toronto, Canada. That is home for me.
I saw that you
But
went to university at how do I say the name of the university in Canada that
so
you
I
went?
went, so I went to the University of Guelph,
Mhm.
and then I went to, yeah, Guelph primarily, and then I
Okay.
also did a little bit at Laurentian. That was like kind of my
Laurentian.
last
Got it.
Laurentian. So that was that was kind of like a secondary portion of my degree that I did. Um, yeah, so that's I'm born and raised there. My teaching career began there at a really young age, and I was just kind of like, "Oh, all right, like been there, done that."
Well, wait, when you say teaching career, do you mean yoga teaching career or
So I started off as I was a ballet mistress to start. So I started teaching ballet at about 18, just kind of through university as I was going through university, and then I finished school and I started teaching ballet full time. And I went through a fairly traumatic relationship with my first marriage, and I really lost myself in it. Young, got married young, didn't really know who I was, got lost in that, and really couldn't really find a way back to myself. And my boss and I at the time, studio owner, she was like, we had just finished this really great ballet class. We had driven into Toronto. I was living in London, Ontario at the time, driven to Toronto to take a 3 hour ballet class. And on the way back, she's like, I can't wait to go to yoga tomorrow. And I was like, oh, really? Like, I did my first yoga class when I was like 16 or 17, and it was like in an upstairs loft with on carpet with like this really witchy instructor. And it's like old ladies, and they were cackling and like just laughing and giggling the whole time. So my first interactions with yoga, I was like, I don't get it. And so when she said, "Hey, do you want to come to yoga with me?" I was like, I guess. She's like, "Your body will feel great after. You should definitely come." And so it was 2000 and 2010, maybe 2009. Yeah, 2009, and it was when the really big boom of hot yoga was happening, right?
yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
this was it was moksha yoga. It was my first class. So I guess I think in the States it's a little bit like modo yoga. Is that right? in the States?
I've heard of mokshas, but
Okay, so it's like a pre-choreographed class. It's like a
uh-huh,
hatha sequence that you
got it.
do.
Yeah,
A
yeah,
couple of vinyasas in there, whatever, and you're in front of a mirror. Like it's obviously very Bikram, like from that Bikram
yeah,
lineage.
yep.
The teachers don't yell at you or anything, but that was the general gist of it. And I loved it. Oh my God, I was hooked. But I think I also got hooked for the wrong reasons. Like obviously as a ballet dancer, I was able to watch my body in these mirrors.
Mm,
Had major body image issues at the time.
mm,
But when the standing sequencing went to seated sequencing, that was when I could like really drop into myself
mm,
and felt okay, like this is me. This is what I'm feeling. This is what I'm watching develop in my body. And I was really able to come back to myself and felt that it was such a positive influence on not only how I saw myself, how I felt about myself, how I was able to look at myself in the mirror, that I started teaching my ballet students yoga. So instead of doing their 3 ballet classes a week, we did 2 ballet classes in one yoga, like stretch and conditioning is what we called it,
yeah.
and started teaching them yoga that way. And then I traveled to Europe with my brother, and it was like a breaking point for me. I was like, this, the way that I'm living my life, what I'm giving to these young women is not positive. I've really suffered because of this way that I've taught myself to have a detest for my body.
Mm,
Um, and so I walked away from it. I walked away from teaching ballet and I took a year kind of sabbatical and got certified as a yoga teacher, quickly got certified as a Pilates teacher, and moved to Toronto. I was living in London, so moved to Toronto and started teaching full time
oh,
and loved it. It was
nice.
like such a positive change, not only in my like physical body, but in my mental state. It's I realized that that's who I was. And yeah, then I got bored. You're teaching a long time, right? And you're like, yeah, I need a
Yeah,
shake up. Like I love, as I said earlier, I love variables. I love for people to throw things in and shake it up. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna move. I'm gonna leave.
yeah.
And in that moving and leaving, I had been going backwards and forwards to Mexico. My parents were often there on vacation. So I had developed a really good relationship in Puerto Vallarta with some teachers and some students. And I was going backwards and forwards for a lot of years. And finally, as I was deciding to leave Toronto, one of the teachers at a studio that doesn't exist anymore in Puerto Vallarta said to me, like, why don't you come down and lead a workshop for us? Yeah, cool. That's awesome. I'll do that. So I boarded the plane, and sitting adjacent to me is my current husband.
Oh.
I say current, like maybe he won't be, but no. My husband, who so that was almost 10 years ago now that we met on that flight. So he
Nice.
was coming from Bermuda to Puerto Vallarta to go
Ah,
fishing, and I was coming from Toronto to Puerto Vallarta to teach yoga. And we had our first date in Puerto Vallarta, and it was like a week, and we had a great time, and we were both kind of like, "Okay, bye, see you never." And because I didn't really have anywhere to be, he invited me to Bermuda to just come see it and see what I thought. And so I went for 2 weeks. And it was the strangest thing. As I saw the island for the first time and started descending into the airport, I was like, this feels like home.
wow,
It was like just this massive, like overcoming, like, this
wow.
is where you're meant to be. So I spent 2 weeks here. And the very last day that I was here, I went and took a yoga class. Because for me, I don't know about you, when I go on vacation, like the last thing I want to do is take a class.
Yeah.
Like my
I know
body needs
exactly
a
what you mean, yeah.
vacation.
If you're doing it all the time, you're like, "I'm going on
Yeah,
vacation to
like
take a
I
vacation,
don't I don't
not
need to go on
to."
vacation to do yoga.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I had to convince myself, I'm like, you know what, just go see what the yoga scene is like in Bermuda. And so I jumped into class, and after class, I was offered a job.
Oh,
Hey,
wow.
what are you doing here? Why are you like why
Yeah,
does your
why
practice
are you
look
here?
like that? Do
Yeah.
you want to come teach for me? And so like the rest was history. I've been here
Wow.
since then. And after I had my first son, so it'll be 4 years this April, I opened up Shamana Circle.
That's really cool. I saw that you opened up in 2019,
That's right.
but
April 5th,
when I
2019.
saw that number, I went, "Oh gosh." That's right before the pandemic. Like, what a
Yeah.
challenging time to start a business, like, just long enough to kinda be like, "We're doing this. I got my mojo going," then all of a sudden, "Okay, wait, put on pause." But I have no idea
Dude,
what Bermuda was like, but I know, like,
yeah,
from the smaller island situations, probably fairly strict. I don't know, what was
yeah.
Bermuda?
So you're totally right. That was exactly it. We were just like really booming and then obviously shut down. Bermuda, luckily, was not as strict as the US or Canada.
Mm,
So we only had,
or London for that matter, obviously
or
being
London
British.
for that
Yep,
matter,
yep,
we only had two lockdowns here. So the initial
yep,
lockdown, that was 4 weeks, I want to say. And then we were able to start with outdoor practicing.
yeah,
So because obviously of where we live, we were able to hook up with resorts on island. People were so willing to
yep,
like be out in parks. And people were desperate for that connection, you know?
yep,
So we started outdoor classes and ran that all through the summer. And then I would say by the fall was when we were able to open with restrictions physically in the space.
yeah,
So I remember the first class we opened with, I was allowed to have 6 people for the size of the space.
mhm,
And then every week it got better and better and better and better and better until I think it was April 2021 when things got bad again.
yep, yep,
And we were locked down again for 2 weeks. And then the release of restrictions happened a lot faster the second time. Like we could get back into the studio and things were, rolling again.
yep,
And I just have to say, like, Bermuda, it's an island of 60,000 people. It's a small town. It's a small community. People were they knew if they stopped supporting local businesses that none of us would be able to open. So
yeah,
my members, they saved us. That's the only way that I made
yeah,
it is
yeah,
we were teaching over Zoom. We were doing outdoor classes and they
yeah,
just continued to pay their membership fees because they could see we were trying hard.
yeah,
Then we were able to develop an online platform through that, right? Like, because obviously they're continuing
yeah,
their fees. So for me,
yeah,
I was like, okay, like what more can I do for my members? And so we developed an online platform that we're still using today. We still live stream all of our classes, and we have like a whole library of content.
same here,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, like it's like, what else do you do? You pivot. Like that was the
Yeah,
language. You pivot and you make it work. And
yes,
movement is so important that
yeah,
we weren't just gonna fold. I wasn't just gonna bend over, like
yeah,
that
yeah,
wasn't happening.
yeah,
And so since then, it's just been like this continual build of people hearing about us expanding our programming, offering more, doing more. And I mean, now we start at 7 in the morning and we finish at like 8:30 at night, and we're teaching and
yeah,
we got classes all day.
yeah.
Great.
That's amazing, Nat. That's really cool. Are you I'm curious, growing up, every time I
Mm,
heard about Bermuda, it was
mm.
this, like, the Bermuda Triangle idea, sort
Yeah.
of mysterious that if you go out there, you'll never come back again, and
Hmm.
what is the reality of all that? What is the history behind that, and
Sure.
why is that?
So the Bermuda Triangle is 3 points. It's Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico. So that's the triangle of space. There are a lot of kind of funny things that do happen around here. Most recently, we lost, and if anyone's listening that like knows all the details of the story, we've lost ocean liners. We've lost most recently we have these like sail GP. So it's like single man crewed sailboats,
Mm,
and this is like a veteran of 20, 25 years went down between, I'm not sure whether it started in the Carolinas or maybe it was like the East Coast, like more Martha's Vineyard kind of area. So it's
yeah,
a race from east to Bermuda, and he went overboard.
oh,
And
wow.
so it's like it's a thing. Like I mean, it totally
What
happens. Does it happen
Yeah,
anymore here than anywhere
yeah,
else?
yeah,
I don't really know, but I think what's
yeah,
weird is that it takes a while to like gather the information and like to go out and find them and the search and the rescue and
yeah,
just so many also like shipwrecks and stuff. Like we have an incredible, there's actually a map. It's Teddy Tucker's map of shipwrecks, Bermuda shipwrecks.
mm,
And if you look at it, there are hundreds of ships that went down all the way around Bermuda because of the reef, like what I was speaking about
wow,
earlier.
yeah,
You can't see it, but because of the volcano, essentially there's all these points that jut out. So, you Bermuda, got a reputation based on that. And
yeah,
then obviously in the first, not obviously, but on the first voyage over in 1609, when Bermuda was discovered, the first it was a shipwreck that they made it on island. They left two guys on island along with a bunch of pigs, and so anytime people were passing by the island, they called it the Devil's Isle because it was just squealing pigs all
Oh,
the
wow.
time. So it has this like very kind of
Yeah.
like dark a bit like history and connotation.
Yeah.
A lot of people would know it from like buried treasure, like Teddy Tucker's buried treasure, finding all like the coins from Spanish Armada and things like that. Like there's just this wild history of shipwrecks and stuff. So I think that's where a lot of it comes from. But if you would ask a Bermudian now, Bermudians would just like shrug their shoulders at you and be like, yeah, I don't know. It's not
Yeah.
really a thing.
It's not
It's not
really
really a thing. Yeah.
just a bunch of folklore.
Just a bunch of folklore. That's it. Yeah, but obviously the shipwrecks are super well documented because people were going out and trying to find
Yeah.
the buried treasure.
Right.
Hmm.
What is the so are how many people are moving to Bermuda versus leaving Bermuda? Does Bermuda
Mm.
stay pretty like
So
consistent with your population? Is there a lot
yeah,
of,
I
is there a
would
lot of
say
work
it's
opportunity? Like
yeah.
it's
So the work opportunity here is reinsurance. That's the big industry in Bermuda. Reinsurance.
what does that mean?
People
Re-
with like real jobs, dude. I don't know. Like I've never had a real job like that.
Real
Like
jobs.
you know what I mean? Like they work a 9 to 5 reinsurance.
Yeah,
So what they do is they sell insurance to insurance companies.
got it. Yep. Yep.
I don't
Okay.
know. And there's a lot of like accountants
People
and
with real
actuaries. Yeah, like
yeah.
risk assessment
Yeah.
management. And
Yep.
like,
Yep.
when people are like, oh, do you know what so and so does? I'm like, they have a real job. I'm not really sure. Like I
Yeah.
don't really know the ins and outs of what they do. But there's a lot of them here, and that's how because Bermuda is the most expensive country in the world to live in, right?
Wow.
So maybe that's something you didn't know, but
I didn't
it
know
is the
that.
most expensive country. If you go and look up one of those like
Yeah.
Google lists or whatever,
Yeah.
even more expensive than Switzerland.
Yeah.
Um, so that's why, because there is so much money here and because we're small and because obviously we import everything, we don't export anything. So we're very reliant on the US. We have container ships that come in every 2 weeks. Essentially there's like enough on island for us to survive for 3 weeks and that's it. So if something ever happened in mainland or we like pissed some people off, they
Yeah.
we don't really have too much to.
You got a long boat ride.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is, or like a
Yeah.
long swim. Like there's no way off besides an airplane. Some people do boat and there's a big yachting culture here, but if you
Yeah.
don't have a yacht, like, you're kind of screwed.
Got it. Now, I saw your studio on the photos that you've been posting on Instagram, and it looks so beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
That an existing building, or is that
Oh
something
my
that you
gosh.
built,
So
or
it
what's the story
was. I
behind it?
was so lucky. So in October of 2018, I finally like this building had been on our realtor websites for the longest time. I had been like stalking it for the better part of probably 6 months at that point. And that October 2018, I was finally like, no, I'd had my son in February. I thought that I was going to be a stay-at-home mom, and I was like, this is not my gig. I really don't like this. I need a life. Like I'm talented. I need an outlet. Um, so I finally like kind of harassed the realtor enough that was like, yeah, okay, you can come see it, but like I don't think you're really gonna like it. Like I don't think it's gonna be what you need. It's at the it's a loft, it's a third story loft, and it's up this horrendous flight of stairs. And you get up to this loft and you come in and it's just this bright, open, airy space. Now there was like carpet all over the ground and stuff. It had previously been an architecture firm called The Studio. And in this architect's building of this space, she had actually exposed all of the rafters and the beams that are originally existing in all original Bermuda architecture. So we build things with limestone because that's what the island is made on. Like it's a limestone island. So we everything is built in limestone, and then all of the structure is built with wooden beams, like 2 by 4 beams. And so
Amazing.
that's what with slate over top. So that's what my ceiling is.
That's what looks so
And the space
amazing.
was
Yeah.
yeah, the space was mostly open. I only had to knock down one wall.
Mm,
It's a 20 by 40 studio with like these gorgeous dark beams and a white ceiling.
yeah.
We laid down hardwood and then that like was kind of it. We painted some walls, laid down some more flooring. Like the bones of the building was it was perfect. I walked in. I said, and she's like, "What do you think? The stairs kind of suck, don't they?" It's like, "No, man, that's the best warm up ever." Like,
Yeah.
no, it's
Yeah.
not accessible because there's no elevator, so you do have to be able to get up the stairs, but I've always been very upfront about that, like, we are we're inaccessible, you do have to climb the stairs, but once you get up here, it's paradise. Like, it's like our own little you don't even feel like you're in Bermuda anymore. So for people who, get island fever and rock fever, they love coming up
Mhm.
here because it's like,
Mm,
"Oh, I'm in the city." Like, it feels like Toronto, or it feels like,
mm.
New York or whatever when they come up here, obviously just because of my influence being from Toronto.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's the vibe. The vibe is just, like, not an island. It's just
That's
so much more than that.
that's amazing. Can you speak a little bit about your own personal feelings and experience with rock fever?
Mm, I don't get it. I
No,
don't I
what?
don't
Yeah.
I think you have to be local, like, I think but I mean, actually, I do know people who aren't local that get it.
Yeah.
I when I first moved here, the culture was very much, 6 weeks on and then vacation. 6 weeks on island, vacation. 6 week
Mm,
people were leaving, like, every 6 weeks just, like, gain perspective. Because again, it's a paradise, it's amazing here, but it's, like, not really real life when you live in such a small community in a small place, and the
yeah.
things that happen here, the culture, sometimes, like, the things that are relevant in Bermuda are not necessarily relevant in other places,
Mhm.
um, and so, yeah, people get really itchy, and I don't know, I don't have that, and I don't know whether it's because I've created this space, like, this is
Yeah.
if I was to build myself a home, this would be it.
Yeah.
So I'm here kind of all day, every day, and I love being here. And I mean, I feel like I taught myself. That's what I learned during the pandemic. I made my home my sanctuary. Like, everything in that space is everything that I love, and everything in this space is everything that I love. So I never really feel like I have to leave. Um, the
That's
last time I
cool.
was off island was June 2021. June
Yeah.
2021,
Got it. Got it.
and I'm not slated to leave until May 2023. So
Yeah, nice. You're like, "I'm settled in." That's
yeah,
awesome. Well, it sounds like when you were coming in on the airplane and you had that feeling of like, "Oh my gosh, this is my home," then that
yeah,
even speaks to the fact that that potentially is why you're still comfortable
yeah.
regardless of how much land mass is around you.
Totally. Totally, I
How
mean, like, all people, I feel like everyone exists in, like, a 10 to 15-mile radius, like, if you
Yeah,
really think about
yeah,
your life, you
yeah,
know?
yeah, it's true. How far away is your home from your studio? Are you in the same
I am
building?
so close, I'm literally up the road. It takes me less than 10 minutes to get here.
How are you managing being a studio owner,
Mhm.
having 2 children,
Mm.
and having classes running from you sounds like 7 in the morning till 8 o'clock at night? And it's
I have I'm so blessed. I have the most incredible team. I have a sensational business partner that is here. Her children are off in university and things like that, so she has a lot of time to dedicate to the space, which I'm so grateful for. My team of teachers is absolutely incredible. They are wonderful. We're a team of women, and not like on purpose. It's just how it's worked out. They are wonderful humans. They are like sponges for learning. They, love being here and love the community. So I honestly, it takes a village, and there's no way that I would be able to do this if it wasn't for my incredible team.
oh, that's amazing.
Yeah,
That's
and at
great.
home, my husband's great, like, my current husband, he's great.
Okay. You're right.
He's gonna hate me.
That's awesome.
He's great.
We gotta be realistic and humorous at the same time, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
yeah.
he's awesome. So he's lots of support at home, so
Well, that's cool. I'm curious, can you speak a little bit about what your in terms of learning different styles of yoga,
mm, yeah.
and what you are most
So
passionate about teaching
Mm.
currently?
Yeah, so I mean, I found yoga, as I said, like kind of that moksha hatha vinyasa style, which then, as a ballet dancer, of course, I ended up doing my teacher training in Ashtanga. Like that, that's just what spoke to me. I've not been to India. I've never done the whole Mysore thing, but the teacher that I trained with in Toronto runs a Mysore-based Ashtanga yoga center. So that was my training.
You mind
And I was
sharing their
very
name?
lucky. Say again?
You mind sharing their name?
Yeah, Ashtanga Yoga Canada.
That is, does he have
David Robb.
yeah. I
David
use
Robson.
his, practice card here at our
Yeah.
studio. I feel like he's got a ton
Yeah,
of
he's
stuff
he's a
online and
beautiful human, like such a
nice.
such a great man. So I did all of my practice teaching hours there, and then was able to do my training one-on-one with my teacher in London. Her name's Sarah Levins. She was teaching out of the home studio that I was practicing at. And so she was very much like, hey, we like, let's get this done. Let's do this together. So I was very lucky to do it entirely one-on-one with her. Again, another beautiful human. And then I kind of moved myself to Toronto, and very much like the Toronto scene. There was still like Down Dog in Toronto. I don't know whether you know any like Toronto studios, but
I've heard of that. I've heard of that.
yeah, Downward Dog was the big like Ashtanga kind of yoga studio there. I didn't gravitate towards that because I had actually been getting really injured doing Ashtanga. My low back was trashed, like trashed. Didn't really understand the core connection yet. Like, you know, Mula Bandha, Uddiyana Bandha, like, okay, those are all words, but like they were never really fully explained to me. And I don't think I really understood. So that is when the Pilates came in. I trained under Amber Joliet out of Misfit Studio. She trained me in stop Pilates, reformer Pilates, and I started teaching Pilates almost immediately. Again, like as a teacher, for me, it was very easy to just like grab new modalities and put them in and just start regurgitating them. Like it's not, yeah, it was very, very easy for me to step kind of into that. So Pilates was happening, yoga was happening, and then her studio was very much at the time about the blend, fusion, this blend of
Mm.
Pilates and yoga. So I got really addicted to doing that, and that was a real thing for me for a long time, teaching this blend of both disciplines. Um, then leaving Toronto and moving to Bermuda, I was still doing that. That was all still happening. And then I don't know if I said to you the name Exhale.
Mm,
Exhale
you
is
did say
a
I've heard of that one
okay, it's a
too, right?
brand
Yeah.
of movement studios kind of all over the States. And they are bar. Bar is their thing. So Exhale was opening up in Bermuda, and I was like, yeah, okay, like I'll learn a new thing. That sounds good. So certified in bar. And so I was very much doing the three: bar, yoga, Pilates, bar, yoga, Pilates. And my body's feeling great. Things were awesome. Loved it. Probably peak of my fitness right before I got pregnant. Um, got pregnant because of my insanely strong core and my Pilates breath, the breath work that I was doing with Pilates. Um, After birth, I had incredible diastasis. Like the amount of like I had like a five-finger separation, no lie, after the birth of my first son, that really did not resolve itself. So I was like, ah, no big deal. I'm a Pilates teacher. I do all these things. I'll be able to get my body back. Like I'll be able to like bring things back. I knew it would never be the same, but like I could work with it. What I was doing wasn't working. Like it really wasn't working. It was making it worse. My back
Mhm.
pain was back. Um, yeah, things weren't good in my body. And I started seeking out help that was not movement. So I started seeing a physiotherapist on island named Michelle Monk, and I started seeing a chiropractor on island named Mark DuPont. And between the two of them, retained a lot of incredible information, had pelvic floor assessment, realizing that I had an incredibly hypertonic pelvic floor, which is what led to my diastasis, and which was really what was keeping me from healing fully. Because even after birth, I did have a very traumatic first birth in the hospital here. It was vaginal, but lots of trauma. I didn't really realize that having a really tight pelvic floor was an issue for birth. When I say it out loud, it's like, well, duh, of course it's an issue. But when you don't know that's what you have, you don't know that's a problem when you're going into birthing, especially when you're in a high intensity environment. And I'm sure you can hear by talking to me, I'm a very type A person. Um, I love to be in control. So for me, it's hard to, and really let my pelvic floor go. And so learning that from her, and then Dr. Mark DuPont is a dynamic neuromuscular stabilization practitioner. So DNS for short, it is a field of developmental kinesiology that is out of Prague. It's the Prague school that does DNS. And he basically rehabilitated my body using DNS. So completely different breath work technique. You're utilizing all of my pelvic floor work that I was doing with my physiotherapist. It was all kind of happening together. And then as this was happening, of course, I'm going, this is insane that I'm able to do this with my body. How do I give this to my clients?
Mm.
How do I turn this into Pilates and how do I turn this into yoga? So the DNS model is very much, and you would know this with having two kids, the DNS model is very much based on, as I said, developmental kinesiology, which is our movement development from birth. So we start, you lay your baby on its back, 3 months supine with your legs in the air and your arms in the air. And then it very much turns into a side lying position. That's the next movement pattern a baby gives you, is that kind of rolling from side to side. And then eventually you get the rolling that goes into a tummy time. It's called 3 month prone. So you're in that kind of position where they're learning to lift their head and they're learning to kind of press up with their hands. And then eventually you get into a quadruped position. You get that kind of rocking forwards and backwards that eventually turns into crawling. And then you get the tripod, or like the leg forward, that eventually turns into the pulling up and the going back down, the pulling up, that eventually turns into a squat, like kind of weird, like squat, like they look like they're going to poop. And then standing. And that
Yeah.
is the developmental pattern of every single human being. We all did that. And so training this developmental movement pattern was how I was able to truthfully heal my diastasis and make
Wow.
it functional.
Wow. That is
So
fascinating.
I
Yeah.
turned that developmental movement pattern into Pilates and into yoga. So our movement, I call it a movement ladder.
Oh,
We start my very first, so we have 6 classes that are part of our method, the Shamana method. We start on our backs in the first class called connection, learning how to breathe. So
yeah.
learning how to breathe diaphragmatically, understanding our pelvic floor, the ability to work our pelvic floor manually and subconsciously, and use that in core work, which is essentially what a 3 month supine is. In order to get your legs up and your arms up, you're belly breathing. You're in core work. So we teach that in that first class. Our secondary class is kind of learning about the rolling, and a lot of that, again, so the Pilates way that I'm doing it is putting in all the core work, all the curls, all the leg lifts, all the toe taps. That's all happening in that developmental pattern. Um, so then our next class is balance, and that's where we're learning kind of all the rolling and side to side, and we start to learn the glute engagement, which is from quadruped into the tripod stance. So we're learning kind of all of that, and again, lots of reps, lots of, which is the Pilates component, slow reps, etc. Our next class is spirit, which we are adding in the yoga component. So that peak posture for spirit is down dog, which is a bear in developmental movement. So, when kids go from quadruped, so on their hands and their knees, and they start lifting their butt up and they're kind of walking on all fours essentially.
Yeah.
So we're peaking to that in that class,
Huh.
using stretching, using more developmental movement pattern. The next class is freedom. So where we get a little bit higher, we're working more on squatting and standing, lunging. We start to incorporate the idea of vinyasa, of flow. And then from there, it goes into fusion, which is a combination of the core work and the yoga, which is way more high intensity. So more Pilates based. And then synthesis, which is more yoga based. So again, adding in all the breath work technique, that's kind of the thread that stays the same all the way through, is keeping that three-dimensional breath the whole way. And then it's the Pilates and then a lot more yoga and synthesis. So it's like basically a graduation to fusion.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's
That
it. That's it in a
that
nutshell.
that
Yeah.
is really cool. I mean, just
Now you got to come, you got to
visualizing.
come take class.
I want to. That is a fascinating
Yeah.
rehab
Yeah.
strategy.
And I mean,
To
the shit that I'm
re
sorry, I'm swearing.
no,
The
no,
stuff that I'm seeing
you can say whatever you
in
want to say. Yeah.
women's bodies, in
Sure.
men's bodies, like the release of back pain, the healing of diastasis, the understanding of pelvic floor, people's sex lives improving, shoulder pain, like just being able to like be in a really, safe developmental position where you can breathe. And I mean, maybe your wife might know
Yeah.
this if she likes hair, but if you're someone who has done a lot of hair, you're using your round brush and your blow dryer, and you're like straightening your hair, and you straighten it hot, and then you hit the cold button to set it, and you do one more pass of cold. That's how I describe the breath work. The breath work is literally that cold pass where it's teaching your muscles and your neurology. It's all up here. That this is the new set pattern. That's what it does,
You know, it sounds like you're onto something that are
dude.
what is what kind of so obviously you're getting incredible feedback from
Yeah,
your immediate community.
yeah.
Is there anybody else around the world doing what you're doing?
I would imagine so. So DNS, they're kind of like the Prague school. It's a very hush hush thing. It's like, and they would probably, if they ever heard this, they would be like, "Oh, we didn't train her. It's not,
She's not the
yeah, she's
official.
not
Yeah.
legit." Like that would probably be the response. Um, and that's totally fine for me because their stuff is brilliant, but I'm actually not able to go train with them because I'm not a physiotherapist, chiropractor, any of those things. So they're more like medical. So I can take like the baseline
Mm,
courses, so like their
yeah.
yogas and their
Yeah.
Pilates and stuff like that. They've
Yeah.
got a pelvic floor rehab as well.
Yeah.
I have never taken any of that. All of it has just been from my chiropractor. He's certified in all of that. And me just like pulling from all of the stuff
Yeah.
that he's rehabbing me with
Yeah.
and then turning it essentially into choreography. So I
Yeah.
would imagine it's happening kind of quietly all over the place. And some of these people are that go and get the certification that are chiropractors, they run CrossFit boxes and gyms, and they're completely changing their programming after they hear about all of this stuff.
Interesting.
Um, and it's kind of kitschy. It's kind of like, what am I doing? But
Yeah.
every time you stand up at the end of class, you're like, oh, like I've just completely reset my body. So, any really like you could give me any ailment and I can pretty much work with it. Like whatever the issue is. Like
Yeah.
is it a
Yeah.
shoulder? Is it a hip? Is it a
Yeah.
I've got clients that psoas issues and you name it. Whatever the issue is, especially postpartum rehabilitation, um, it
Wow.
pretty much taps it. And like I've been kind of waiting because I mean, hopefully what you hear from talking to me is like I'm always kind of looking for the next thing. Like I want to be current. I want to know what's going on.
Yeah.
And I've yet to find anything else that like heals it. And
Yeah.
I have yet to find an issue. And obviously the island is small, but I have yet to have an issue come through my door that's been able to walk up my stairs that I haven't been able to help.
Whoa. Something about it just makes so much
Yeah.
sense. Why
Yeah.
wouldn't we revert to our initial
Yep.
birth state,
Right.
rebuild from the
Right.
ground back
Right.
up instead
Right.
of
It's like
trying
every
to
good yoga class you've ever taken, right? The ones that start with breath
yeah,
work and core work are the best classes you've ever taken. There's a reason for that, you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
Um, and
Yeah, yeah, that's
I
amazing.
think
Yeah.
it's
Well,
powerful.
I didn't even know I was going to stumble onto you right now. Like I did.
So funny. You're like, oh, this girl that lives in Bermuda. Yeah.
No, but
We're
honestly,
making it happen.
that's very brilliant. I'm
Thank
excited by
you.
this. Yeah, I'm really in
Yeah.
awe
I'm happy
of
to share.
I,
I'm super happy to share. Hopefully, as you can hear in my voice, like I am never someone that's like, oh, like quiet about what I'm doing.
I gotta keep
This
my
is what
my
I'm
secret
doing.
secret. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, come see what I'm doing. I will teach you. I've already taught teacher trainings in it that people are going and they're taking it places. We are actually doing a 200-hour training in April that will cover the breath work and the core work segments. But it is obviously a 200-hour Yoga Alliance
yeah,
certified
yeah, yeah.
thing. So we have to follow their outline, but it'll still be very much DNS kind of Shamana method based.
Are you having that all in studio or is that
Yeah, I'm so excited.
so it's
So
not online
yeah,
though?
go.
Not online?
No, so not
Yeah,
online. We're not doing it
yeah,
online. I think we're
yeah,
gonna offer an online component next time. Like we're gonna do half of it online and the other half in person.
yeah.
So the teacher that's coming down, she's actually out of is she in Fort Lauderdale? I should know where she is. She's in Florida. She's called the Traveling Yoga Studio. She and I crossed paths in San Diego when I was teaching in San Diego before I moved here. And she does during the pandemic, she started this online yoga teacher training. And she very much curates yoga teacher trainings for studio spaces. So for me, I'm again, probably as you can hear, yoga is a thing for me, but it's not my only thing.
Yeah.
So for me to like create a 200-hour teacher training, I'm like, ugh,
It's
I
a
don't
lot of
know.
work.
There's so many other
Yeah,
things. And she
yeah,
has this expertise. So it's like, great, come on in. Let's bring you in.
yeah.
I'll put what I know in with what you know, and we will have this teacher training. So it's over 4 weeks. here. It's all going to be integrated into the studio, which I think will be so fun. We're going to run all of our classes like normal, and we've just integrated training hours with um with the teacher training. So like their practice hours and lecture hours, etc.
Yeah. Very
I
cool.
know.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Amazing.
we're trying.
I mean, also too, just to hear your background in the world of dance, the evolution then
Mm,
toward yoga, naturally into Pilates, and then having your own personal issues that you need healing with, looking outside the box, finding people from the chiropractic and what was the other terminology that you used from
physiotherapy.
physiotherapy? Thank you.
Yeah,
To really just like figure out what works. So it's amazing to hear your story and see how it all evolved and where you're at now. That's really inspirational. It's so
thanks,
cool.
Todd.
Very
Thank you.
cool. Very cool. You know, you had made mention earlier about the type of body imaging stuff that happens in
Mm,
the ballet world. And if you don't want to
mm,
speak about any of this, I totally understand. But I'm just
mm,
curious, how I'm aware, personally, just in relation to trauma, like it takes time. Like things
mm.
don't just happen overnight.
No,
Is it something that you are still working with, or have
absolutely.
you turned a major
Especially
corner?
postpartum. Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like it's always a thing.
What
It's
happened
very much
postpartum? Do you mean in relation to, like, being able to see yourself and not have negative thinking because your body's
mhm.
changed from
Yeah,
the
your
from
body
the
changes so much, especially after the second one, man. Those second babies. No, the first one wasn't so bad, but the second one, I was like, oh boy. Definitely, and it's the primary reason that we don't have any mirrors in our studio.
Yeah,
I don't want to, and I don't know that it's healthy. I don't know if it's healthy to be staring at your reflection all day long.
yeah,
It's why I don't have a scale in my home. It's why I spend a lot of time in sweats. You know, as soon as I get home, I'm like immediately taking off my leggings and I'm getting into a pair of sweats. Um,
what is
and a lot of it,
the idea there, Nat, that leggings and stuff, you'll judge yourself more when you see
mhm,
yourself in something tight versus something loose? That's a
totally.
I never thought of that, but that makes perfect
Hmm.
sense. Yeah,
Yeah. So you just, it's just, you're just kind of changing your habits in order to, not prevent your mind from going there, because I think it's important to go there and to deal with the thoughts. But it's just nicer. It's easier. And again, that type A or hypertonicity for me, it comes right down when that is my reality, and I'm, sitting cozy in my house and not worrying about,
yeah,
is my
yeah,
stomach sticking out, or or do my legs look fat today, or
yeah.
my boobs look crazy because I breastfed two kids. It's
What is your
I feel like it's constantly it's daily. It's a daily practice.
yeah.
Daily.
What is your earliest memory of, starting to think negatively about your body
Mm.
image?
Yeah, I remember it from, I probably was, I want to say 6 or 7 years old, maybe, and standing in front of mirrors before ballet exams.
Mm,
And, standing in a ballet first position, some girls would have space between their legs. They would have like a thigh gap. And from 6 or 7 years old, I knew I didn't have that. And I remember that being a really, like, why isn't my body as good as theirs?
yeah.
Why am I fat? I was like 6 or 7. I was not fat. Like I'm a small human. Just those thoughts. And then we used to have to wear like these little elastic waistbands around our bodysuits for examinations. And I remember the one that they wanted to give me, it was, I mean, they probably just gave me the wrong, like they probably just handed me the wrong size, but it was too small. And I had to go and get another, like the next size up or whatever. And I just remember being so upset with myself that like that,
Wow. Yeah.
that is something that I had to do at 6 or 7 years old,
It's
and it was
amazing.
just a continuation.
Yeah. That's incredible. I mean, have you observed, because you've been able to traverse, multiple spheres of body movement, schooling in relation to yoga and dance, and we do see this in yoga as well. I feel like
Hmm.
in yoga, there is a positive turn in the direction of accepting making it accessible for everybody, and that
Yep,
any one particular body shape size is not
exactly.
more isn't better than another.
Yep.
And obviously in ballet, I'm guessing, well, actually my question is the ballet world making accommodations for this type of thinking?
No,
It's not.
no,
It's pretty
no, no.
steadfast in that, "Nope, nope, we're not going
Mm-mm.
there. Sorry, like, that's
Yeah.
great for you,
It's
we're
like
not
an elite
changing."
it's an elite sport. It's an
Mm,
elite, the best of the best of the best, and I mean, I just remember,
mm,
the boys would get so much attention because there's so few boys that do ballet. So it was so much more likely that the boys would go pro and the boys would be selected for schools and things like that. But because there were so many girls, and there are so many girls that are still participating, and are excellent at what they do. And I mean, if you're going to dance on point shoes for hours at a time, like I don't know, I can't imagine being a bigger bodied person and having the ability to do that, just to be able to move body weight like that.
right,
It was already hard enough.
got it.
Um,
That
and
makes
so
sense.
maybe it is happening and maybe things are changing. Obviously, I haven't been in that world in a long time, but what you see on the stage and what you see in imagery very much hasn't changed. I think the only thing that is happening now is that there are more people of color in the ballet industry. And even that, like even probably that coming out of my mouth, I'm realizing there really still isn't space for that. And usually when you are a person of color, there are only certain companies that are interested in you, the Alvin Ailey's and things like that. Um, there really is not a lot of space for different bodied and
Diversity.
differently abled people. Yeah, the
Yeah,
diversity, it's just
yeah.
not there.
Alright, well, luckily, we're in a world now where we can.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah, and that's
like
it.
a
And it's
we're in a
like
free
if people
flow
can't access,
we're in a free flow environment where,
yeah,
like, you're creating a space where
yeah.
you don't have to follow the 26 poses of the hot yoga
Oh
series
my
and have to
god. Oh
turn
my god.
the temperature dial to the exact same temperature.
Yeah.
I mean, you're
Open
in
up
a
a
space
window, man.
where you can create a whole new thing based off of, what is important in the moment, which
Yeah.
obviously is the way of the future.
It can be whatever you want it to be,
Yeah. Yep.
Just sitting and breathing, that's yoga. Like
Yes.
you attempting something in a day, that's for me, that's yoga. Like and anything like that, anything with mindfulness is yoga. I've it's taken a really long time to establish that um image of Shamana Circle specifically, that we are completely open to absolutely every age, demographic, race, religion, size, color. Like we are open. We want you here. It's a safe space for you. You will look around and see other people who look like you. Um, because what Bermuda was before, it wasn't that. Like there just wasn't that space. And
Yes.
we've really had to work hard too, especially because Bermuda is a very, very religious island. It's very, yeah, yoga is scary. Yoga's the work of the devil. Yoga is these negative things. And so we've had to work real hard to like be involved in the community and be accepted by the community and approach it in an angle that is accessible to people. Whether that's price point, whether that's class titles on the schedule. Like we've had a lot of really interesting, we do like village talks and just interesting conversations that we've had about diversity and culture and color and size, all of those things, invisible disabilities. Like we're trying to be for everyone. Period.
I hear you, Nat. Oh man. I'm so inspired. I'm extremely pleasantly surprised, but at the same time, what I can't express enough about doing podcasting and reaching out to people that I don't know. First, for you to just willingly join me, not knowing me
Of
from
course.
the moon, just shows that you have that open mind that is just so important, I think. And I'm just so appreciative to meet other people like you. And also, I just love hearing your story, and your evolution is absolutely, so incredible, so inspirational. And I just am really thankful to have this chance. And I'm excited to see what will come out of this. Maybe I can come or bring a group
Yeah,
to Bermuda and I mean, it's only
absolutely.
what do you say? It's only 700 miles away. It's not that far.
Honestly, and, like, if you can fly, because 'cause you're where are you? Are you close to Miami? If you can
Uh,
fly to Miami, it's a
we're
direct
in
flight.
yeah, we're in Juno Beach, so like about an hour and 15 north of Miami. We're in like the
Dude,
West Palm.
that is perfect. That is perfect. Direct flight from Miami,
Right,
get
right.
your butt here, come take some class.
And if you're ever over in Florida
Totally.
too, we'd love to host you and
Yeah,
just a Shamana training or something of that nature
yeah.
here
Oh,
if
that'd
you're
be
ever
so
in
fun.
this neck of the woods. You know,
Yeah.
Nina, I know you have a busy schedule, so I don't want to hold you too long, but I'm curious. Do you have any thoughts, closing ideas, words of wisdom, inspiration beyond what you've already shared with us to help us close our session today together?
Mm. I just think, anybody listening or anybody that's, like, trying to make yoga a thing, like a daily thing, it's just that, movement is medicine, and any type of movement is important. It doesn't matter where you're doing it or how you're moving your body, as long as you are getting up, moving your body daily. I say to my clients all the time, get the vitamin D, get the sleep, eat the food, drink the water, and that's how we show up. That's all we can do. It's just every single day it's a practice. Um, yeah, that's really
Perfect.
it.
Perfect, Nat. Well, thank you so much, and I look forward
You're so
to
welcome.
having a chance to connect again in the future.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.